Hello, hello. Welcome everyone to another
Hello,
live
hello.
stream hosted by your neighborhood friendly Langflow team.
I feel like we should have some puppets now, right? But anyway, that's.
I know. We need
Did I
to
just
get this
age
intro
myself?
down.
Yeah. Is Mr. Rogers still around? I'm not sure. Anyway, sorry.
I think I hope he is. All right. As people are coming in, you might notice there is a bit something different with the SQL interface. You might notice off the bat that chat is not here, but
Mhm.
don't you fear because you could still talk to us live in the Discord
In the
channel.
Discord. Hopefully,
Yes.
y'all see that. Just click on that link.
Yes. I hope I'm pointing in the right direction. David and I just spent
I
5 minutes
Yeah,
before
we
this
kind of figured out how we could do that. So yeah,
making
just
sure
click
we're
that link.
pointing.
And by the way, I
Yes.
do see in the Discord live stream channel, I see Bashal. Hello, Bashal, saying hello there. Yeah, give us a thumbs up. Say hi in the chat in Discord. Let us know that you're there, right?
Yes. Yeah. We will be trying something new with using Discord for the main chat function today. Also, on that note, if you check out the pinned messages up top, David also put a poll there because, as you see, the title of this live stream is Build a Vibe Coded AI App with Langflow. And David asked a quick question about vibe coding. So use that poll. Tell us if you've used vibe coding before. Drop some chats also. Maybe discuss about your experience with vibe coding. Just tell us what you've been using. Oh, someone said they've been in contact with you for a while. Oh, I lost contact with you in 2019, David.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sorry
long
about that,
friend.
Michelle.
Hi, Mon. Hey, Crutch Programmer. I love that.
Yeah, that's great. Great.
Hey, Junior. Yep.
I think Crutch Programmer in the era of vibe coding, that's kind of a fun handle to have right now.
Yeah,
You
that's
can go
actually
either
super
way with
fun. I
that
don't
one.
know. Yeah, I don't know if you had that before vibe coding or if that's just always been your tag or your username, but that's a super fun one. All right. Again, for folks who are just tuning into our sequel, we're just giving a little bit of time for folks to head
That's right.
over to our Discord because I know if you don't have a Discord or you're just finding the channel for the first time, it might take a second. So check us out in the Discord chat to join us for the live chat during the live stream. You'll be able to do all of that in the Discord. But hey, we will get started now. Again, we are the Langflow team. The title of this live stream is Build a Vibe Coded AI App with us today. Some quick intros. My name is Melissa. I'm a developer relations engineer here on the Langflow team, along with.
Hello, and I am David Jones Gilardi, also one of the developer relation engineers. I call myself GenAI nerd, along with Melissa on the Langflow team.
Yes. And we have some really fun content for you today for this live stream. Just some quick housekeeping rules before we kick off. So, of course, the Discord live chat will be available and live for you the whole live stream. We will try our best to answer all questions and comments as we go on. So, just leave them there. And if not, the beauty of Discord is that we can continue the conversation after the live stream is over.
That's right.
So, that is a great way to just keep communication after this is over. And another thing, we always get this question: will this live stream be recorded? Yes, the live stream will be recorded. We will share the recording with you once the live stream is over. So if you missed it, if you came in late, don't worry, we will send this over to you after. And lastly, this is meant to be fairly interactive. So again, don't be scared to chat. Don't be scared to ask a question. And any links, anything that we share, again, will all be packaged up for you, sent into an email, and we'll also keep in contact afterwards in the Discord. So now that that's all out of the way, let's jump into a little bit of what a high level of what we're doing today. We're going to be revisiting a fun old app that I built called ResumAI. It's a job assistant app that takes a resume and helps with job hunting. But we're going to take a little spin on it because it's been a while since I personally visited the app. So there's a lot of new things with Langflow that have updated that we're going to take a look at. and kind of revamp it and improve upon it. So we'll do that live on this live stream. And we'll also do some vibe coding. So I'm going to take the flow that we've built, that we will build, and I will vibe code it into the existing UI. And then also some fun, David.
Yeah. So we're both going to do some vibe coding, but while Melissa is bringing you through the flow and hooking up her app, what I'm going to do is I'm literally taking a screenshot. Let me share real quick. I'm just going to share my screen real fast to give you an idea. I am going to take a screenshot, or I've got a screenshot of the existing app, what Melissa's going to show you. I'm going to insert that into Lovable with a little basic prompt here. And then while Melissa is showing you everything on her end, I am going to attempt to vibe code a new ResumAI app with the Langflow flow at the same time, right? And then we're going to come back around. We're going to kind of compare things a little bit. And for those of you who are interested, in this particular case, I'm using Lovable. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. I think, Melissa, you're using Cursor today. Is that right?
I'll be using Cursor.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll see the difference between the two. That'll be fun.
Yeah, there is a method behind the madness in this case. So anyway, like I said, Melissa's going to take you down a path, and then I am going to be vibe coding the stuff live, and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, super excited. We haven't done kind of this like live vibe coding or like live coding format. At least I haven't yet. So I'm super excited. Again, if you have any questions, feel free. But let's go ahead and kick it off. Anything else on your side, David, before we
No, I'm attaching the screenshot right now with my basic prompt that I'll talk about a little later. I'll let you get to it, and
all right.
I'll keep an eye on our chat.
Sweet. I'll go ahead and share my screen and let's get started. So again, let me talk a little bit about what ResumAI is. So the existing app, it's here. It's available on my personal repo on GitHub. I'll walk you through again what it does. So this is the simple UI that I have here that it's already built. You can visit this app if you want, type in resume-ai.streamlit.app and try it out for yourself. I had a live stream about this a while back as well, where I also built the flow and like walked you through what it did. But the main idea is, if you're applying for a job that's kind of a little bit different from what your current resume is tailored to. For example, maybe I want to go into product management. But currently I am, let me go into my sample resumes. But currently, maybe I'm a software engineer. So, I have my experience. I have a bachelor's in computer science. And what's great about those two roles, they have very similar requirements and background, but there might be just some different tweaks or buzzwords that you might want to use in your resume. So I would use ResumAI to help me recommend some improvements, as well as give me a draft of a modified version of my resume that would be more tailored to the product manager role. So here's the existing UI. It's very simple. It has this flow running in the background. So pre-Langflow 1.4, we didn't have a lot of components that we have now, right? If I walk through this, it has the chat input, it has the file. There's a lot of things going on here where we have to kind of do some parsing with our data. And then for our current Langflow users, you might notice I don't have any agent components in here either because we didn't have it yet.
Oh, that's oh my God. Okay, so this was, it's funny. I wanted to comment on this earlier, Melissa, because when you said old application, it's so funny how the paradigm has completely shifted to what was old not that long ago compared to now. Because this was how many months ago? Right? Like,
yeah. I mean, I think I did this like earlier this year, right?
Yeah.
February, March,
Yeah.
which is technically not that long ago. But,
no, it's not. And it's not even just Langflow. I mean, the whole industry, the whole GenAI industry has now moved to these agentic flows and everything like that. So I just find that very interesting that it's not been that long ago. And now we've moved so far forward.
Right. And then I'm looking at this and I'm like, dang, this is old, like, but yeah, it's just how fast things are going, but it's really fun. So I thought, when we were kind of putting this together is, hey, I haven't visited this in a while. Let's try to revamp the flow and let's do it live. So that's what we'll do. Right. So let's actually pop into the old app and see what the response that we want to get out of it. So let me actually zoom in. I know that's pretty small. There we go. All right. So again, we put in a role, we put in a resume, and we should expect some improvement suggestions. So resume improvement suggestions here, and the adapted resume. That's what we're really going for. So how can I take this kind of older flow that has a lot of moving parts here and improve it and update it with our current paradigm in Langflow? So I'll start off actually with the blank flow. Let's do that. And we're going to start from scratch and bring in again a chat input and a file component. So these are the two main points of input here that we will need. The chat input will allow the user to put in the expected or their desired role they're applying to, and the file component will handle the resume. So now we need to do kind of two things here, right? We want to, one, offer resume improvements to the user based off of their existing resume. And then two, return a modified resume based on the improvements and apply that to its current resume. So there's kind of like two outputs that we need. So in my head, I think, okay, we need an agent to do the suggestion and then an agent to do the resume building. So
Okay.
we'll set that up here, right?
By the
So
way,
I
Melissa, there
will.
was a request to zoom in just a bit more on the various components and things as well.
Okay, yes, got it. Thank you. So rewinding a bit, we have a chat input that I just dragged on and then a file component. So you could just search them here. Chat input is an input and then file, I believe, is under data. All right. So now what I'm doing is I'm dragging on two agents. Again, one is to handle the, let's actually use these post-its to kind of help divide the work. One is going to do the resume improvement or like improvements / suggestions, right? So what's fun is we have these kind of post-it notes here in Langflow to help us label and organize ourselves. And then one agent will be here to do the building, resume building. There we go. So what we really need to do here is just prompt each of these with some instructions of what we expect it to do. So I want to have this agent focus more on offering me suggestions with the context of what role I want to apply to and my resume. So what's great about the new components that we have, especially with the file component, is that I can upload any file type, so like a PDF, a text file, a docx file. And if I run this, then it gives it to me in three different formats already. So one is data, so I could process it as a data object. One is a data frame, so kind of more similar to like a pandas data frame. And then one, it just kind of stringifies it into this message output. So that's what we need here. So we're going to take the message output of the resume, which just, again, stringifies it. And we're going to use that in our prompt. So I will take those two. First, I will actually build out my prompt. So I have a copy of my prompt here. And I wish I could actually zoom in on this, but oh, there you go. Cool. How does that look, David?
It looks okay to me, but I'll ask the folks on the channel watching if you can read the text okay, just give us a thumbs up. If not, let us know.
Yeah, team, let me know if that's okay. Looks great. Okay, awesome.
And
So,
just, as you're going through this, there are a couple questions that have dropped in the channel.
oh, sure. Yeah, can I answer some right now?
Yeah, why not? If it's a good spot for you. Let's see.
Sure.
Now one from Petrovog Gel. I don't know how I said that or if I said that right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually gonna do this on my end. But it said, what do you think is scoring the current uploaded resume user first before giving improvement? I think so. I think I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna get my base thing working with what I'm vibe coding right now, and then I will take that as a feature request. Now the
Yes.
second one from our friend Crutched Programmer. Yeah, on a similar note, will the models or agents I build be universal across all platforms?
Hmm. Um, what platforms are you referring
Well, then
to?
you get a follow-up question, and
Uh,
can I build ones that
oh.
I can run locally on a device? Right. So if, Crutch Programmer, I think we have a couple follow-up questions for you. For one, what Melissa just asked, but then also when you say, can you run locally on a device? So yeah, there are models like through Olama and services like that that you can actually run on like let's say you have your machine or a server and you want to run the models locally to that machine
Mhm.
and not have to go to an external provider like OpenAI or Anthropic. Yes, you can totally
Mhm.
do that.
Mhm.
And a matter of fact, I actually have a whole set of videos on that very thing. So just give us clarification. Is that what you're talking about? Right.
Mhm.
So we'll come back to that one. Oh, and how funny, Melissa, from Lucky Joe.
Mhm.
Where do the file output get stored on the hosted version and the private version? So
Okay.
anyway, just teeing some of these up. Yeah, go for it.
Yes, yes. A lot of these questions, actually, David has them kind of wrapped up into what he'll be talking about later. So,
Yeah.
file input is one of them, and I'll also be addressing a little bit when I finish building the flow, Lucky. So, hang on tight. All right, so I'll just move on here because we let me first build out the flow, and then maybe I can answer a lot of your questions when we bring this into the app. So, the prompt here, really quick, all I'm saying is based on the given resume and anything based on the given resume and desired role, you are to offer suggestions. I can obviously make this prompt a lot more beefy and detailed based on how detailed I want it to be. But for now, I just created this very simple one, and then I gave it the resume content and I gave it the desired role. So notice if you're building flows and you're using this prompt component, anything that you put in a curly bracket becomes a variable. So what does that mean? If I save this component here, I notice that both desired role and resume are now have now appeared in my component as 2 input points. So lucky for me, I have my chat input, which is the desired role, and I can hook that up, and my resume as a message, and now I can hook that up. So that's a really great thing about components, the prompt component. Also, to comment, we had a hackathon last week or a couple weeks ago in New York, and a lot of folks were asking me how do they kind of combine two different texts into one single input to another component. So this is a way to do that using the prompt component and using variables within the prompt component. All right. So I'm going to hook that up to my agent as an input. I need an API key to make sure that it's talking to the model. So I just have it defaulted to OpenAI GPT-4o. If you drop down this, there are a bunch of other providers here, just depending on what you would like to use. But we're going to use OpenAI today, not for any particular reason, just it's defaulted there. And I'm going to flip this into tool mode. So that's going to come in a little bit later, but we will get there. All right. So my improvement suggestion agent is ready. And I'm going to go down to my resume building agent and set this one up. So similar to my improvement, I'm going to bring in another prompt. This one is going to be focused on now building a resume. So let me drop this here. This one says your resume builder based on the given role, curly brackets role, and detailed suggestions on the person's existing resume, curly brackets resume. You are to create a new resume with the knowledge that you have. So simple enough. I'm going to then hook up my input points once again to my prompt component, and then my prompt component into my agent, and then flip this agent into tool mode. So I will pause right there before we move on. Are there any other questions, David, that people are
Let's
asking?
see. I see again from Crutched Programmer here. I'm new to Langflow, so does Langflow have any support for physical devices that are connected to the host computer? Like if I were to create a CV model, we'll be able to get input from the cameras.
Oh,
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting one. I think so.
yeah.
Langflow itself is extendable, right? And Melissa, I don't know if you know any components off top of your head that do that.
Hmm.
But what I would, Langflow itself is the generative AI agentic like workflow engine, right? So it's the part that you're going to build out, like what you see Melissa doing here. The
Yeah.
input, if it's outside of something, like I know that we have 12 Labs, right, that does like video, there are image inputs and that kind of deal. I haven't seen one personally coming from a camera. But here's the cool thing is Langflow itself is extensible in the way that it's all Python code under the hood. You can just create a custom component. And if you wanted to create something that's, say, you know, hooked up to your camera or something, you write that in Python, you expose it as a component. I don't see why not, right? I think the key trick there is going to be, what are you doing with that video input? And what models support that kind of, you know, that kind of media? But I don't know one off the top of my head that does video like cameras or something like that.
Yeah, I also don't. I've seen a lot of folks using input from cameras and handling it that in their app. And then, like David was describing, they have some model maybe in their app that's processing the image or the video and then sending that to Langflow to then do what other Gen AI or agentic flow that you would like to do with that,
That's
with
right.
the video content.
And then ask. Oh, go ahead,
Yes,
Mel. Yeah,
I was
were you
just
gonna get
about
that?
to
Yeah,
say
go
that
ahead.
one.
Yeah, go.
Yeah. Ask says, what's tool mode? Very great question. So that's a great segue to this next piece. So we built two agents. They have a kind of a specialization in what they do, right? One is to do improvements, one is to do resume. Now, why did I do tool mode, right? So if we remember, if we go back to like what is an agent, right? An agent compared to just a regular model or basic prompting call is that an agent has access to the external world and is able to reason and plan and based upon what it knows and what it has access to. So one of those things are tools. So if I were to bring in kind of this central agent, there's this concept of multi-agent architecture, right? So the idea with this is that I have this central agent who I'm asking my main question to, and then with its knowledge and its prompt and its ability to reason, it will choose tools based on the query that you have asked it. So, for example, I will set my API key here, and I will bring in this prompt to my orchestrator agent. So there's different names that people call it: central agent, orchestrator agent. I don't know, David. What are other kind of names for that kind of
Oh, yeah,
central
I
agent?
usually call it like the orchestrator or like the, you
Orchestrator
know,
agent.
yeah, I tend to call my tool-based agents like sub-agents. There is some nomenclature that seems to be settling a little bit. Orchestrator agent, though, is a popular one for sure.
Yes, yeah. So orchestrator agent, but there are a lot of other names that people call it. I also tend to just say orchestrator agent. And I look at this as the main kind of decision maker in your multi-agent architecture. So this one, compared to the two kind of sub agents that we created, as David called it, this says you are ResumAI. You are the main kind of brain of this app, and these are the things that you can do, and these are the things that you have access to. So I said, this is your process. First, use the suggest tool, and then use the resume builder tool. So I gave it what tools it has available. I told it what tools that it has available to it. And then I gave it a process of how it should do its approach. And then you can take the output from both the responses from those two subagents, and then get your output. But it's not always like that, right? Like if I had a agent that was connected to Gmail, and then one to Slack, and then one to Jira, they all do completely different things. And then if I were to say create a ticket on Jira, the agent would look through its toolbox and say, okay, I will use the Jira tool in this case, right? I will only use the Jira tool, and then I will process your request. That is one use case. In this case, I'm giving it two tools in which both of them are used to perform the entire process. Hopefully that makes sense of what tool mode is. And any component, actually, most components in Langflow can be switched into tool mode and used within a central agent as a tool. So if we have like a calculator tool here. again, it does like simple arithmetic, and then you can switch that into tool mode and use that in your agent. That's just a very quick example. So now that we have the two improvements, the improvement suggestions agent and the resume building agent, we can use those two agents as tools to our centralized agent. So this is the centralized agent. We've given it its abilities, use the suggest tool, then use the resume builder tool. And then, oh, and one very crucial thing that I forgot to show here. Within each of your agents, if you go down to where it says actions and you click on this icon here, you have the ability to name your agents. And this is really important because when you are using this multi-agent architecture and you have this orchestrator agent that's making these decisions, it is best practice to give it like the pretty descriptive names so that it knows what each tool that it has access to, what each tool is able to do and what it does. So in this case, I have my suggest tool, right? So I will just name it like suggest tool, and then I'll give it a brief description. So you suggest improvements and details to the user on how to improve their resume, right? Save that. And then I will do the same over here for my resume building tool. So I will just call this one resume builder. And then the quick description is you build resumes in Markdown format given the user's desired role and current resume. Okay. So now I think we should be good with where we are, just to walk through this whole flow once again. So we have a input from the user, which is their desired role. We have the PDF of their current resume. The user wants to know how to improve their resume and how to apply those changes to their current resume. So our flow gives those suggestions, it then builds the resume, and then it returns that response to the user. So
Nice.
last thing,
Oh,
go ahead, David.
yeah, and while we're right there, so there's a couple questions that came up, and I've answered them, but I think there are things that we should say out loud real quick.
Yeah.
So let's see. Now, one question, it is related to agentic flows, but not so much, at least at this point, the ResumAI app from Zach or Zhack. Just essentially asking about MCP. Yeah, and yes, Langflow has full MCP support, also in agentic mode. So there is an MCP connection component that you can just bring in. You can use standard IO. You can use SSE connections, and then you can expose. You can either do them like inline where they're not tools, and you can just execute them on their own, and then pass whatever output to your LLM or something, or you can put them in tool mode, like what Melissa was just talking about. There you go. Yeah, she's bringing it up. And when you do that, now your agent can just use the various tools that are exposed, right? So that is fully there. And then Darshan, yes, the main agent to categorize into many sub-agents. Yes, that's your, as Melissa said, you're using that main agent orchestrator, whatever you want to call it, to be the taskmaster and letting the sub-agents be specialized in what they do. And you can chain those as far as you want. I personally haven't gotten, if I'm doing that, it's usually just like multiple sub-agents to a single orchestrator. I haven't gotten to a point yet where I've had like 5 or 6 deep or something. So tool is basically, okay. And to be clear, for Petchvogel, so a tool is basically another agent. In the case where you are changing an agent into tool mode, yes. But any other tools, no. So that is just special for the agents that you can make them tools as well. Ask again with another fun question. What if I connect the calculator without tool mode? You can absolutely do that, right? So again, you'll notice, and I think Melissa's going to show you this, most of these components, there are very few that default to tool only. Most of the components will have both a regular like inline mode and a tool mode, right? So you see this right now. She's doing it right now. So that you just hook up the input and output. So if you had some expression that you wanted to evaluate, you put the expression in there, you hook up your input, and then get whatever output, and you can pass that through. So you do not have to use it in tool mode. Anyway, I just wanted to get through those.
Yes, that was all great.
We can move on.
Oh yeah, thank you for stopping me and keeping me on time there. Once you kind of get into this flow state of building flows,
yeah,
you forget. Okay,
very flowy.
so right. All right. So last thing to put this puzzle together is I need my chat input to go into my orchestrator agent, because my orchestrator agent needs a query to kick it off, to refer to, right? So this is all good. We will test it now. We have a playground feature here in Langflow for those who are new, and I can go in and yes, I will give it my desired role. So using the same example from earlier, I want to be a product manager, and the agent should do its thing. Oh, something happened. Something paused. Oh, we don't have a chat output.
Oh, there. Oh,
Oh, dare I?
that is needed. That is needed.
That is definitely needed. All right. Let's start a new session really quick. And we will put in product manager. So yeah, another thing, if you are testing out in the playground, you do need to remember to have a chat output there. Okay, it's asking, it says, please upload your current resume. It is uploaded. All right, so it's kicked off the agent. You see it's accessing the resume builder tool. So it's doing this. If I go into the drop down here, you could see kind of step by step what it's using, what it's working with. So this is, and it's using the suggest tool also. So this is basically in the quote unquote mind of the orchestrator agent, right? It's seeing what tools it needs to use based on the input request. So it's accessing the suggest tool, then it's accessing the resume builder, and then it should give us the response here. So
Cool.
we get the expected, oh, let me let it finish its job first. So it's giving us the markdown here, and I'll scroll up in just 1 second. All right. So it's given us the resume improvement suggestions here, and then right below, it's given us the adapted resume. So exactly what we were looking for. And I feel pretty confident about this flow. Now, how can I bring this into my app? So if you remember earlier, I showed what the app looked like in its first iteration. I have that same app up here as a local app, but if I try to submit something, it just gives me null right now. It doesn't work.
Right.
So
So you're
I
gonna hook
want to hook up. Yeah. So I want to hook this up, this flow up now that I have it done, and I want to bring it into my application. So
So, Melissa, while you're doing that, would this be a good time to kind of show the state of where I'm at in Lovable?
yes, of course. Yeah. What have
Okay.
you been doing in the background?
All right. Well, let's see. I'm actually super happy with the output so far. So here, I'm going to answer this question. Oh, and Logasure. Yeah, no, I totally hear you on the prompt thing. I think this is something we should definitely flag for the team, to have some kind of capability that would allow you to modify to optimize the prompt. Yeah, right there
Yeah,
in line. Um,
that's a fun feedback. Yeah, we'll definitely pass that back, Lagesh. And hey,
yeah.
Lagesh,
Hello.
you
Yeah,
just
and I was actually
you just
just
find
about to answer Petrivagol with a question. Said, and I figured again, everybody, this would be good for everybody. It says, I saw chat input connected to many nodes. How does the flow work? Do they work in parallel? Yes. So if you've got like Melissa does, if you've got a chat input or chat input, and it's kept out to a bunch of different nodes, watch when you execute the flow in the UI, you'll see it, but it'll actually hit those all in parallel. So she's like feeding information into some and that kind of deal.
Mhm.
So it will work that way. Matter of fact, I've used that in a lot of cases where maybe I have, say, more complex flows, and I want to take some part. I want to parse out some information from the chat input, and I want to put that somewhere else to do something with it. I'll totally do that kind of thing. So yeah, Langflow will manage that part of it. Okay, so
Mhm.
I'm going to go ahead and start. Unless there's anything else you want to say before I start sharing my screen, Melissa.
No, just real quick. So
Yeah.
if you're gonna show what you were working on right now, just
Yes.
a
Oh yeah.
reminder of what this current the current UI looks. I'm using Streamlit. If anyone's
Yes.
familiar, my other Python developers out there, it's a front end package for that's really easy to work with. So you kind of get the typical look of a UI. So let's pass it to David and see what he got over there on his
All
vibe coding.
right. Let's see what happened so far. So, all right. Do you see my screen? Looks good.
Yep, there it is.
All right.
Ooh,
Do I need to blow this up a little bit? Maybe. Okay, I'll blow it up a little bit.
there we go. That looks good, I think. Yeah.
All right. So one thing I do want to preface, I mentioned earlier that Melissa's using Cursor for the parts that she's just about to hook up, and I'm using Lovable. Now, right now, obviously, if you've been kind of, in watching what's going on with like vibe coding and vibe coding tools or AI companions, there are a lot of players that are out there right now. You've got like Bolt.new, Cursor, VS Code, obviously with Copilot, and there's all Windsurf, all sorts of stuff. I have found personally that Lovable is focused on the front end UI. That's what they do. Where Cursor, we were talking about this the other day, Melissa and I. Cursor is good for like really general purpose tasks. Like if I want to write code in any language or something like that, I'm going to use Cursor, right? Where Lovable is they're narrowly focused on doing like Tailwind, React, and that kind of deal. But they do, personally, I feel they do a really nice job of the UI, right? And so like I tend to use them for cases like that. Bolt.new is another one, right? Now, if you were to ask the Lovable to turn around and say, build me a whole Next.js app and do all this stuff, or like build me Python, funny enough, it will say, oh, I'm not built to do that, but you can make it do it. And it will actually, like if I had an app that I built a while ago that I originally had a Python backend, and I was like, well, hey, I want to bring this in. It was able to take it in and do something with it, but it's not its focus. It's not its expertise. It's really good at doing the UI. Right. So anyway, a lot of the times I will use Lovable like this to prototype up and POC up, an initial app, because I just love the output that it gives me. Right. But again, I just want to make that clarification that if I was then going to bring that and I had like a full-fledged app, I'm probably going to move over to Cursor at some point. But that's me personally. Anyway, so what I did was I took an image, which is this original screenshot from Melissa's Streamlit app, right? And if any of you have ever used Streamlit, by the way, I think when you're doing Python development and you are looking, Python isn't known for UI building. Streamlit actually makes it really nice, but the UIs are pretty simple. So for a simple case, that's great. But I said, hey, let's take this. And then here's my simple prompt. Now, funny enough, for those of you, if you're new to vibe coding, right? One thing to have success is you want to be very descriptive and very prescriptive. Because you are dealing with something, and I'm going to show this to you at the end, you're dealing with something that is not deterministic, right? And depending on the vibe coding platform and the AI companion you're using, you may get different output for sure, or you will. So this prompt is actually pretty small. And I don't have any rules set up or anything like that in Lovable. Most of the AI companions will allow you, Lovable's restarting on me for some reason, will allow you to set rules, but I try to keep this simple, right? So gave it a little structure, but like I said, if I'm really building an app, I will if I'm building an app I want to deploy somewhere or something like that, I will be a lot more descriptive. I'll set a lot more rules, things about unit tests, integration tests, all sorts of things like ask me before you make changes, things like that.
Right.
Anyway, so this based off the original screenshot, I gave it this prompt with the screenshot, right? You can see me kind of going back and forth. It's telling me, hey, how it's going to set things up. And I'm like, yeah, let's go for it. Now, right now, you can see that I put in the job role. I gave it my fake resume, which is I think this one's the project manager one, and it's analyzing it. And so at this point, I do have it hooked up, right? So you can see it's hooked up to my Langflow here.
Nice.
This is after a couple iterations where I was not hooked up. And but so I'm taking the same exact output you're seeing from Melissa, right? And then I fed that into this. Now, I smiled earlier and I was like, I'm actually really happy with this because I asked it after I got the initial response. I asked it, hey, let's separate things in these different tabs. Like, give me the score. Somebody was asking about the score before. Here's the job match kind of details. What improvements could we have, and what recommendations, right? So, it's actually pretty fun. I did one. To be totally absurd, let's do line cook. I was doing this yesterday for fun. And let's grab. And by the way, I did tell it like, hey, I want to be able to ingest text and PDF documents, right? So, let me see. Where is there it is. My fake product designer resume. I'm going to do this one. Okay. By the way, the toasts and everything, Lovable did that out of the gate. Like I didn't tell
Yeah,
it.
I remember you telling me,
Yeah.
David, they do well with like just pretty much one-shotting all those like little like visual anything like you said, it's really heavily on the front end. So yeah, those toasts, those notifications, the tabs and everything
Yes.
did it in one go.
Yeah. Yeah. So in this one, I purposely was a little absurd because I put the resume for a product designer in for the role of a line cook. Right. And notice the score here, like it says, yeah, you got some transferable soft skills, but these really don't match. Right. And this is coming again. This is from the Langflow part, right? You can see
Mm-hmm.
this last one here, line cook, and then here is the response, right? So this is coming out of something similar. So anyway, this is just I'm gonna continue on here, but I feel like this is actually a really good start,
Yeah,
and I was able to do this, right? And it's not. This is a combination of personally, I know Langflow really well. I know how to do things like upload files and everything like that. But with the right prompting, you can get going on a prototype super fast.
for
Um,
sure. And I think someone had a question earlier on about adding the likelihood score of their resume or scoring the
yes,
resume. So how David did it in this case was I think it was included in the prompt that you have set up, right, David? So you could prompt your agent to do pretty much whatever you want it and how it
right,
processes the information. So if I also put in when I was setting up my flow and I gave maybe the resume suggestions prompt to say also score it, then it should also include that as well. So that would be a way to do that.
yeah.
And then in David's case, Lovable was able to read the response and say, okay, we'll have a section for scoring, a section for job matching, and a section for the resume, adapted resume.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Notice in the response here that this is actually what's coming out of Langflow, given the way that the way it was prompted in the flow, right? It's actually just a bunch of text. Yes, we have clear sections and that kind of deal. So this was part of what was in the prompt, just like what Melissa just said. So it's able to parse these out, but this is a bit soft. And what I mean by that is if I'm going to have, say, like a fully fledged application that I want to deploy and I'm going to have users, right? I probably don't want my various, expected sections here to be based off of parsing certain characters like colons and stuff out of the response. So that's where you can use things like structured output, like you can use components in Langflow that will allow you to have a guaranteed structure that then your
Hmm.
app can conform to. That is the way
Hmm.
that I do it in every single one of the real apps that I build to ensure I have a very specific payload that I know won't just break. Right.
Hmm.
So there are definitely ways to do that. But yes, it is just parsing it out. Like the model's really good at that.
Hmm. Oh,
Oh,
that's
nice
so
stretch.
fun. That is
Okay.
too funny.
One last thing I'll say about that, and I'll go back over to you, Melissa.
Yeah.
I'm gonna Gretch, I'm gonna pick on you for a second, but not in a bad way, for real. Like, is this wow? I just took me 12 seconds and I made an agent to solve my chemistry homework file. I love this, by the way. One thing, this is such a key thing about vibe coding. Take time to stop and read and understand and even write some of the code.
Mm.
And one of the things you can actually give rules in the AI companion platforms like Cursor and stuff, you can give rules that actually tell it to do that and prompt
Mhm.
you to do that. Because as someone who, has been, I started coding way back when there was no Google or anything like that. Like you sometimes just had to pound your head on a desk for days to figure something out. And nowadays I can go talk to a model and it usually gets it right pretty quickly. But one of the things that I have personally noticed is that it's easy to gloss over the details and then not know those details. So if you
Mhm.
really
Mhm.
want to learn the thing, great, have the model help you, but then sit down and actually understand and try to do some of it. So you don't lose
Mhm.
the details, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think this is a good plug. David does have a video out on our Langflow YouTube channel of top 10 vibe coding tips. And he talks a lot of all the stuff that he's talking about now about being descriptive with your prompting, understanding the code, understanding what was vibe coded. Um, what else do you have in there, David, in your YouTube video? You should check it out. So I think we'll send the link after, but top 10 tips for vibe coding. It's really helpful to go in with intention and not blind.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So with that, I think Aman has a question that is perfect to flip back over to you, Melissa, with where I
Sure.
think you're going to bring us next, which is how did you connect your Langflow workflow with Streamlit?
100%. Let's do it. So let me
I mean, I
that
glossed
was
over all that in mine. I didn't even talk about how I connected it.
it's almost as if Aman is part of the live stream. Like he knew what we were going to transition
Yeah.
to. So Aman had a question. And also if you're tuning in right now to SQL and you notice there's no chat, we are talking in the Discord in our Langflow Discord. So yes, it'll flash up right here if you aren't in that Discord chat. please join us. So Amon asked, how did you connect your Langflow workflow with Streamlit? So perfect segue. Once your Langflow flow is done, you have several ways that you can kind of publish it. So one of them being, for example, we talked about I'm doing this in Streamlit. It's a Python framework. So I will use the Python SDK here. So what this does is that it points to my local Langflow, and then I will be able to bring this. I should be able to bring this into my Python app. So let's see what that looks like. David called this out earlier, right? I'm using Cursor, which is better, which could be a better experience for kind of more general coding tasks, and not as focused on making the front end look as pretty, but it helps with giving you that initial kind of stepping stone of where you need to go and how you need to incorporate different pieces of your code, including this. So if I want to say, this is the code to power the upload. Actually, I want to bring this code into the app. This is the backend flow of the upload, resume flow, and send. Let's just see how that goes, right? So I'm going to kick that off and we'll see how it incorporates that Python code that we brought in. So, okay, what does it give me? I know might be a little bit hard to read. Let me see. Okay, so it suggested that I use import request. It's going to define this run resume flow for us. And then it's actually giving me 2 different ways, right? Expose an endpoint, 3 different ways. We'll try this way. So let's say yes to that. And we'll do this all live together. Cool. So it's defined the resume flow. It's using that code snippet that we gave it, right, to then point to our Langflow flow. It sends a payload, which is essentially the desired role that we're asking for the user. And then it should kick off the flow from there once we call the resume flow. So that looks good. I will bring this up actually here. Cool. So let's say, and then if it says if the Streamlit button is hit, press submit. If the submit button is hit, we want to run resume flow with passing through the desired role. And then on top of that, the input value, which is the chat input. So that's one thing to call out. The input value that's sent through the payload is the chat input. So we also want to send through the desired role here as well. All right. Let's see what that did for us. All right. Product manager, I will give it the resume and press submit. Okay, I see it running. I think we might be, oh, did I, hold on. It needs to print out the results, right? So there we go. Oh, nope. Let's see, does it print out the results? Actually, yeah, we probably should print out the results here. Let's see what that does. So I like to, when I do this, also just walk through the code that it suggested me. So what David was saying, right, is that we don't want to go into this and just accept something mindlessly. You can, but I think just for our credibility and not having kind of code in your code base that you don't know what's happening, which happens a lot, is to just understand what was vibe coded, what is the vibe. And one thing I like to also say is vibe coding, I think I heard this from actually one of our colleagues, is vibe coding is an exchange between 2 things too. So you can't just like continuously yell at your chat and expect it to do things you want it to do. You need to vibe.
Please.
Yeah.
It's a thumbs up.
Right, like figure this out. So I actually, just for the concept of time, I'm just looking at the clock right now. I did have this kind of ready in another thing, in a copy. So it did something similar before, where I where it defined a function for us with the input value, which is the desired flow. This is pretty much the same snippet of code it generated that we gave it. And we do some things here with the submit. So let me just copy this over here so that we could see this actually run. And if anyone's using Cursor and they know a better way to comment, to multi-line comment and uncomment, please let me know, because I think I'm missing something here. But all right. So let's walk through what happened here. We have the run flow. It's taking in the input value, which is the desired role. And then in the actual payload, notice that we have something here that says like file. This is what we need to grab from the flow to handle file inputs in this case. So we have the file component. We need to go into controls, and each component has an ID associated with it. So if you want to pass through something directly to a component from your app, then you could reference it here using its ID. So I'm going to grab this ID from the Langflow UI, and I'm going to put that here in the payload. And this is just saying that I have my file component. There's this file, which is the resume that I want to pass through, and let me pass that through the file component as well. And this was also all kind of vibe coded through Cursor in a previous conversation that I had with it. Conversation that I had with it. It's funny. Whenever I talk to David and he's in the middle of vibe coding, he says, "Yeah, I was talking to my agent the other day," and he'll be referring to like his vibe coding session, which is, it's super funny how the difference of the way we handle development now is like, yeah, I was talking to my agent and he came up with this, but we're literally talking about like Cursor or something. Okay, and then it's processing the desired role. It's giving us, it's using the run Langflow API function that was vibe coded, and then it's passing that through, which kicks off the Langflow flow. So this now, if I go into my local Langflow, this should be good. Okay. Your desired role is product manager. Thank you for submitting the form, loading your results. And if I actually go into my Langflow flow to the playground, then you could see that product manager was sent through. So it's loading the results here. We should see that in a few seconds. And again, like I just spent, if I had more time here, then I probably would have done the whole back and forth. But, like 15 minutes just conversating with Cursor. I think one of the tricky parts is with the results, you kind of have to like parse the output still to make that show up. Sometimes on the first run, Cursor doesn't get it, but David had some success over there.
Well,
It's
funny enough, Melissa, to
loading.
your point, if you show the code you have in Cursor right there, so
Yeah.
the output payload from Langflow, honestly is a bit large, right? There's a lot of it's because there's a lot in it. It's not just the message you're getting back from the agent or the model, right? Because you have
Yeah.
all this data coming back from the components and things like that. But notice that line she's got highlighted right there. I cheated, meaning I know
Oh,
that. So
yes.
I told Lovable do this, right?
Yes.
But
Yes.
what I have done in the past for that very thing was, and I've actually found great success in all of the AI companion platforms, is to grab the output payload, the JSON itself. I will literally feed that in and say, I want the message from this. And it
I
will
was just
usually pull
about
that
to
out.
say,
Yeah.
yeah. And now I'm forgetting how you actually pull up your old chats, but let's see. Yeah, now I'm forgetting how you can actually pull up your old. Oh, here it is. Okay, maybe it was this one from a while ago. No, but yeah, I did something similar, right? When you get the payload back from, oh, and there it is. Woohoo!
Woo, there we go.
Here's the
Nice.
response. Yay.
Right.
So when you get the response back, it comes as this huge JSON blob. I
Right.
copied that, the same thing, and I gave it to Cursor, and I let it do its thing, which helped a lot. But I think David, is there anything that you wanted to show? How's your progress going over there?
Well, honestly, since we chatted last, like I feel pretty good with where we ended up. Um,
Yeah,
and with Lovable and everything like that. I've been actually answering stuff in the chat, so I haven't really done
sweet.
anything since that point. I think I'm going to ship it. Let's go ahead and make some money. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Let's the next resume app, LinkedIn. Let's talk. But I think the huge part here is that vibe coding is definitely an experience that is different for everybody. I think Langflow is a definitely great tool to help with folks who are vibe coding. You can be hands on with building your flows. You know what's happening here, and then once you're done, you have this thing that you built. That I
right.
say, okay, I built this thing, put this into a vibe coding tool, like hook it up to my app, put it into this feature. And that's kind of what I was showing here. And then you can use other vibe coding tools that are more tailored for specific things, like David was showing with Lovable, to focus on the front end stuff, or, vice versa, right? If I started with my app like David did, and you give a screenshot, and you want to return and you want to try to make this a bit better, and then use something Cursor later to focus on the back end, then that's also a way to approach it. So a lot of these things David talks about in his top 10 vibe coding tips video. David, if you want to talk a little bit
Yeah,
about some of
as a
the
matter of
tips
fact,
that you give.
yeah, I was actually just looking at some of the things I'd like to address here real quick in the chat, just to make sure that folks have these answers. Like one from Hassan. Hi, how does this flow save or maintain the conversation history? Right. So super
Mm,
cool. The agentic flow that Melissa was showing you, the agent itself, like when you use the
mm,
agent, what's happening under the hood is Langflow by default actually has an SQLite database. And I think she's going to show this right now. And so when you're having a conversation with the agent, that conversation, all the message history, the memory the agent is storing is actually being stored in that SQLite database. Now,
mhm,
there are other options. You can make that Postgres. You can make the memory be external, right? There are multiple ways to do that, but that's already happening in the agent itself, right? So yeah, it looks like you're kind of, yeah. So you can see all of that stuff. Yeah, the agent is storing that stuff on its own. So hopefully that answers your question there, Hassan. Let's see. Oh, I thought I saw another one here. Right, Lagesh, right. Everyone looks for jobs these days. There's a huge market for this resume app. You know what's interesting about it is this is kind of this is kudos to Melissa. This thing honestly works. Like I went through a bunch of things as I was doing because I didn't build this. Like I was just consuming it to build this new version. And I was like, the analysis is actually quite nice. I
mhm.
don't think that I'm looking for a job right now. But if I were,
um,
this would actually be a really nice tool. I'm totally with you. Totally with you. Let's see. I see Gianti. Is it possible to directly call a component without adding a
mm,
chat? Yeah, actually, this is a great question.
yes.
Funny enough, Melissa and I have been working on looking at this lately. Yeah. For one example might be the file component. Maybe I have a case where I just want to ingest a file and process that file, but I'm
Mhm,
not doing anything agentic or something like that. Can I do that? Yes, you can do that. Right. There's a webhook component as well that if you want to hook up, if you have some service and you want to be able to call asynchronously your Langflow flow from that service with a webhook, you can use the webhook component. So there are multiple ways that are not just the chat input. So yeah, that is one answer there. I love this next question,
this is
Janti.
David's favorite
Yes,
question.
yes. I have a video on this as well, by the way. I love it. I love it when questions actually hit the videos that we've created. But is it
Mhm.
one session ID per flow in Langflow? No, this is a feature I use all of the time. And Melissa, if you wouldn't mind, I'm gonna
Yeah.
put Langflow on the spot. Go to the Publish tab. I believe it is now part of the code snippet we give, and go to API access. It doesn't matter which one. Take a look at JavaScript. It looks like they put it in JavaScript. Yeah, notice the
Oh, I
session ID.
see.
All
Yeah.
you need to, this is one of my favorite unsung features in Langflow, to use multiple session IDs per user, whether you're using a UUID or some kind of string name or something like that. All you need to do is set the session underscore ID parameter in your payload. Langflow would do all the rest. And what I mean by that is where the session ID applies, anywhere that you're doing things with, say, like message storing or with chat input or any place, if you look in a lot of components, you'll actually see there's a session ID parameter there. It's just hidden. So if you were to go for instance, go to the chat input, And if you expand it and then go to there you go. Session ID is there. It's just hidden, right? So there's session ID that is enabled for a bunch of components. So all you have to do is pass that session ID in your payload, and you will automatically get new sessions spawned for whatever your IDs are. And then Langflow will maintain those. So if you have an agentic flow like Melissa does here, and let's say you have N number of users, every one of those gets their own session ID, and now their history and their context will be unique to them per their session. So I love that question because, like I said, I use it all the time. And I think yes, that session ID, can you share it? Well, yeah, because like if you're using, what happens is this. I've actually had cases where I've had a main flow that then calls multiple subflows, right? You can do that just for tool calling and things like that, right? That session ID will persist across if you're using it in that payload. Okay. Let's see. And
is it possible to implement or use MCP using LangChain MCP adapters? Is there any possible to link with LangChain and LangGraph? Is it possible? Well, yeah, I feel like you should be able to wait. So if you're using it with LangChain MCP adapters, actually,
I'm not sure off the top of my head.
Yeah. Because the way that we have the MCP component set up is you can go straight to the MCP server as it's created and connect it directly. So you wouldn't need an adapter. And then maybe last question. Oh, this is a great one from Hassan. Since the flow is created locally, what's the recommended way to share or deploy it to a third party? David, I think you have a great answer for this one.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different ways to do this, actually.
Yeah. And there's actually a video out there by our colleague Tejas where he shows how to deploy Langflow anywhere.
He just did a whole set of them. Yes.
Yeah, a whole set of them. So there's different ways. Like we've done render. DigitalOcean was a great one that we saw at our last hackathon. Fly.io, I think, was one of them as well. So yep. David just dropped the link in our Discord for our YouTube channel.
And the reason why I didn't drop an individual video is because Tejas if you go to the videos tab in there, you'll see Tejas has a whole set of them. He just did like 5 or 6 of them on different deployment styles and such like that. He covers a lot of ground. So to answer the question though, yes, you can absolutely build, you can deploy Langflow, like render, Railway, Hugging Face, AWS, whatever, because it's at the end of the day, it's just a Python library, right? So you can just pip install it, or it's already Dockerized. He goes through all of this stuff. So really depends on the kind of flavor that you have and the way that you like to deploy things. But yes, you can absolutely do that. Okay. And I think go ahead, Melissa.
Go ahead, David.
No, I was going to say, obviously we're at time, so we do have to wrap up, but I do see this one last question here from Hassan. And what would you suggest for a beginner who has just started learning this tool? I would suggest that make your life a little easier, especially if you're on like a Mac OS or something, that if you're not comfortable with like pip install, like Python, you can just use the desktop, but then there's a whole set of templates. You'll notice the second you say new flow, you'll see all these new templates, right? If you want to do like an agentic thing, start with the simple agent flow, right? And just experiment with them. They'll give you all these examples. And then as you go down in all those templates, there's a bunch of templates in there that would give you these nice kind of, exactly. Thank you, Melissa. That'll give you these nice starter flows that are all ready to go. All you need to do is add like your OpenAI key or whatever, whatever provider you have, and then you can start doing things. And we have a ton of videos on doing that very thing actually in the YouTube channel as well. So it might be worth taking a look there. And with that, we are at time. So I think we need to wrap it up, Melissa. What do you think?
I know. I think I would love to stay in chat, but that's what the Discord is for. We can definitely continue the conversation. If you are using Langflow or you're just using it for the first time and you have these questions, please feel free to use all those channels in the Discord. We don't have to just in the live streams one. We have office hours, we have tutorials and tips, and we continue to use this as our platform to communicate with you all. So please stay connected with us in the Discord channel. Again, this session will be recorded and sent out in an email after, along with all the resources that we talked about and shared today. But with that, it's been Melissa here.
And David.
And we'll catch you